One of the main reasons that America became such a massive global powerhouse is because over the past 250 or so odd years, we pretty much invented the modern world. Whether it's the automobile, the airplane, the computer, the internet, whether it's the telephone, the light bulb, the steamboat, the cell phone, the refrigerator, microchips, air conditioners, or even some other things like fractional reserve banking, credit cards, and mRNA-based vaccines, good or bad, they all came from America. And one of the reasons that so many inventions came right here from the good old US of A is perhaps twofold. One is because our system of government and our supposedly free market economy, it unleashed the human potential of a massive population. And second of all, America developed a solid system of patents, which effectively protected intellectual property rights. For the past 200 years, if you invented something here in America, you could be fairly certain that, for one, you could monetize your invention, and that also you can have a recourse available if someone chose to steal it. However, like almost every other institution in our country, well, the patent system has been getting more and more corrupted over the last several decades. And in order to explain how this happened and what this corruption looks like in practice, well, I spoke with Mr. Randy Landrino. He is the president of an organization called US Inventor, which is seeking to restore the American patent system to its former glory. And he explained to me how these big tech giants, in particular Google, how they lobbied the government to fundamentally change the patent system, and then, once it was changed, how they installed their own people to be in charge of that system. And so, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and take a listen.
Randy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. So, I believe a lot of people, including myself, when I think of the US patent system, I imagine it rather simplistically. Let's say I come up with an idea, a unique idea, a ring that has a button on it that controls your phone through a simple function. I design it, draw it out.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I hope nobody takes that.
Too late.
I design it, put my unique fingerprints on it. I either myself or through a lawyer, submit it to the patent office. It gets a stamp of approval. Is it really that simple, or is the patent, how does it actually work?
Well, here's the thing, and there is a simplicity that really matters, and those who have tried to destroy the system have made it more complex, and they try to make you think it's complex. So getting a patent isn't the issue. I mean, yeah, there's some difficulties, but if you come up with something that hasn't been done before, and it has a use, is useful, and it's you can get a patent on it. Now you may have to look. You need to get educated. You need to learn a little bit. You can't really depend totally on your attorney. You have to kind of make sure your attorney does it right. I know to your viewers that might sound strange, but you need to kind of be the quarterback of what you're doing, right? But here's the problem. Once you get your patent, if it's something really valuable, now a lot of patents aren't that valuable. Most patents aren't really valuable. But if this is a real winner, like something that's really got value, that's where you're going to need your patent rights. You're going to need to have the ability to stop a big company from infringing it, because they're going to want it. And the and look, I hate to say it, these multinationals don't have a lot of ethics, right? The laws have to be set in such a way to cause them to be ethical, and as it is now, they're not at all. And so when they try to take it, you have to be able to threaten them with a lawsuit that could actually cause them harm. And that's what used to be the case. For 200 years, we had a system where you could stop a big infringer. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, you're a little guy, you don't have any money, they have tons of money. No, you can do it on contingency, where the attorney shares in the winnings. You don't have to be rich. I know a guy that did that 30 years ago against a car company, and he won. And it was a fair system. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's fair. But what big tech did in a very devious, intelligent way, they realized about 12 years ago that if they could have a way to invalidate others' patents, especially startups, they wouldn't face a whole lot of competition in the future. And that's what they did. They got a law passed. Think about the kind of influence that big tech, all those entities we call big tech, have with their lobbying and their donations and all the stuff they do in Washington, D.C. They got a law passed, and they had a narrative. These lobbyists, they come up with a narrative that's compelling. If you heard the narrative, you'd probably think, oh, that sounds reasonable. They got a law passed that created an administrative court where most of these patent battles now end up. Now, realize before you had real due process. You had a real court, you had a judge, you had a jury, a lot of due process. Now, you try to sue them for patent infringement, they end up getting you in this administrative court where there's no real judge, there's no jury, there's not much due process, not at all. And 84% of the time, the patent gets invalidated. 84% of the time. And you have to spend a lot of money trying to stop that from happening. And it's a very rare attorney who'll take that on contingency, because they'll go broke. because even if you win it, you don't win anything, and you can be hit multiple times at this administrative court by other entities or even the same entity. It is horrendous. It is un-American. It goes against what our founders created our patent system for. The patent system was for the little guy, not for the big corporation. It's to enable a disruptive startup to disrupt the big guys. And that's why they're not being disrupted, why they have so little competition, because they can crush a startup that has a patented technology that should be able to take some of their market away. But no, they can crush them now. The other thing it's doing is China, in a very intelligent way, they have strengthened their patent system in order, they've kind of looked at what did we used to have? Why don't we do that so we can have some of our own innovation, but even more so, we can attract investment capital for startups based on Chinese patents. So they're attracting capital for startups, and we're losing capital because how do you invest in something based on a patent where the patent can be invalidated? So we're losing startups. They're creating the next Silicon Valley, and if we don't turn this around, we're talking about serious problems for this country. It's not just unfair and going against the American dream. We're talking about serious security threats from China, and kind of taking away what really one of the key things that has made America different than the rest of the world. And the answer is that an inventor or startup needs to have their day in a real court. Real courts are fair. You have lifetime appointed judges that aren't looking for a better job somewhere, right? At this administrative court, that's not the case. You have government employees that are looking for better jobs in most cases, I think. And they're not going to go to work for an inventor. They would go to work for a Google or Apple or whoever. Now, by the way, we're not just talking about tech inventions. We're talking about any invention of real value. Then there's a large entity that will realize, well, we can just take this and we'll use this same administrative court, which is, by the way, called the Patent Trial and Appeal Board, which we refer to as the PTAB, to invalidate it if they try to sue us. And that's what they do.
Now I'd like to pause here for a super quick moment and introduce the sponsor of today's episode by showing you this little piece of money. Or rather, I should say that this is fake money being printed into oblivion by those geniuses over in Washington, D.C. And so before they completely obliterate your life savings, what I recommend you do is to convert that fake money into real money, which is physical gold and silver. And the best company to use is the sponsor of today's episode, American Hartford Gold, who also happens to be my own personal gold and silver bullion dealer. Now, American Hartford Gold is one of the best companies in the game. Besides myself, they have thousands of other 5-star ratings across the country. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They ship quickly, directly to your doorstep. Their product listings are awesome. They're stacked with great options of gold and silver bullion and coins. And best of all, they have amazing customer service. When you pick up the phone and call them, you feel good because not only do they have friendly staff, but they're a patriotic company that actually sponsors a program like ours, so you feel good knowing you support a company that supports the truth getting out into the wider American audience. And so calling them up is a no-brainer. But best of all, if you tell them that Roman sent you, they will throw in up to $5,000 worth of free silver with your first purchase. So giving them a call is a real no-brainer. So hit them up. It's 866-242-2352. That's 866-242-2352, or you can simply text the word Roman, R-O-M-A-N, Roman, to 65532. Roman to 65532. Of course, all their details will be down in the description box below. And now, let's head on back to the studio.
So if I have a patent and Google, let's say my ring,
Okay.
ring I
I
described.
like that ring idea.
If Google is now using it in their product, they launch the Google Ring, and they're using the exact same technology that I
Yeah.
patented, I can sue Google,
Yes.
or rather, they can sue me in this
Well,
court.
here's what will happen. They won't do anything if you just do nothing. So if you just let them steal and make profit off of your invention, you're probably going to be fine. But of course, how can you do that? Because you're trying to do something with your invention, right? So you let them know, hey guys, you're infringing my patent. I'm sure they already know it. They know what's coming out. Perhaps they even talked to you about licensing, which I can give you examples of that. And then they went away, went silent, and they came out with your product. So you say, okay, that's it. You get an attorney, you sue them for patent infringement. They immediately claim that the patent is invalid. And they get it into this administrative court, the PTAB, and your regular Article 3, by the way, for your viewers, an Article 3 court is a court with a jury, with a lifetime appointed judge, and a regular court, a lot of due process. They get that case stayed, and it goes to this administrative court where the validity of the patent is reviewed. And that's where, when the PTAB reviews a patent fully, 84% of those cases get invalidated, either fully or partially. Partially means typically the claims in the patent that matter. So you might still have a patent, but it has no value because it has no teeth in it.
That sounds like a lot, 84%. But is it because?
Yeah.
But is it because a lot of patents are kind of not that great to begin with? Maybe a door with one hinge rather than two, and suddenly that's a patent.
No, I mean, I know you want to think that there's something that's not as bad as it sounds. we want to think that, and especially inventors who are about to go to the PTAB and face this, they always want to think that, well, mine's different. My attorneys are better. They made a mistake. Blah blah blah. No, what it boils down to is this court. Number one, the way it was set up. So think about this. Google and all of big tech helped get this law passed. And by the way, this administrative court is going to be run by the patent office. That was part of their sales job. It sounds legit. Sounds okay. Well, guess what? The director of the patent office is a political appointee by the president. And so they get the law passed, and the next thing you know, the former head of patent strategy at Google gets appointed as the director of our patent office. And she's the one, Michelle Lee, she's the one who ends up setting up the PTAB, hiring the judges, making the rules, and turning it into, it's a former chief justice called it a killing field for patent rights. And that's what it is. And so it was set up, it is a totally biased operation that has the purpose of finding some reason to invalidate a patent. And in fact, we even through FOIA requests that we've done, usinventor.org is our group. We're the guys fighting to turn this around. Through FOIA requests, we have determined that these PTAB judges get bonused more when they invalidate patents than when they don't. How about that? And you might think, and I know one of your questions, I know you're trying to think, it can't be that bad. Well, what are they invalidating based on? So when you get a patent issued, number one, it has to be novel. It has to be useful. If it's a utility patent, which is a patent for what something does, as opposed to a design patent, which is just what it looks like, which isn't a very strong patent. So useful, it has to do something, provide a function, has to be novel. The patent has to describe it well enough, and it has to be non-obvious. Now that's a subjective term. Now when the patent office looks at it, they look at everything that's been done before, and they say, okay, based on all this, we say it's non-obvious, and the other hits the other points, you get a patent. The PTAB, they can look at all the same information about previous patents. It's not like they find something that everybody missed, and therefore, well, you guys made a mistake, there it is. If they did that, we'd have no argument. No, but they look at the same information, and they say, well, we think it's obvious. And that invalidates the patent. They can even do that after an Article III court has validated the patent. Now, here's the thing. Before this was created, these fights would take place in a real court. In a real court, with a judge and jury, you could fight whether it's valid and also whether they infringe. And that's where a fair fight happens. And of course, the infringers don't want a fair fight when they're guilty. So our thing is, let's get back to a fair fight. Let's get back to have our day in court. And let's actually get a law passed, which is what we're working toward, that either gets rid of the PTAB because it shouldn't have ever been created, or allows a small entity to opt for a real court rather than be forced into this unfair administrative court.